Glad to have you back. Let's delve straight into the second segment as we take a look at the latest developments in the online business space. The fast evolving space of e commerce is opening more and more doors to how people do business locally and globally, leveraging on the wide market opportunities that prevail. This year, the African e commerce industry is predicted to produce $33.3 billion in revenue, following an increase of 19%. From next year, the industry is projected to grow by 14.7% to $38.2 billion. However, contextual challenges that stifle the growth prospects for Nigerian players remain issues around high cost of transportation, logistics, data security, response to customers' complaints, and low profit margins due to rising inflation. Well, let's talk about this. And I introduced him earlier. He's a startup coach, Mr. Idowu Akinde. Also joins me via Zoom. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you in.
Hi, Tolu.
Yes, let's get talking. Before we go into Nigeria being named among one of the countries or best countries for online businesses, first, you are a player in this space. Take us through activities, all of the challenges during COVID-19 and, after COVID. It seems like online shopping seems to have come to stay. It's not the way to go because everyone, it's so easy and more convenient. What's your take? Give us an overview of activities in that space.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a good question. As you know, you could call me the incurable optimist. And I say that because as much as people, including myself, cry and complain daily for the challenges in Nigeria, the truth is that Nigeria is an entrepreneur's heaven, an entrepreneur's ideal environment. What is an entrepreneur's ideal environment? An environment where there are plenty problems. Why? Because each of those problems is an opportunity for somebody to become a millionaire, possibly a billionaire. Having said that, when we see statistics like the report that we're dissecting today, or reports that say Nigeria is one of the best places to build an online business, those people are essentially just confirming what I just said, corroborating what I just said, which is essentially say, if you take, for instance, any problem, just list any 3 or 5 problems off the top of your head in Nigeria. If you can solve that problem, and you can guarantee that you can solve that problem for 1 million people, 1 million is 1 over 200 of Nigeria's population. If you can solve it for 1 million people, no matter what it is that you are charging, most likely you will have a great business. So, having said that, there are certain factors that predispose Nigeria, to opportunities like this. Number one is, as we said before, the population. Now, when I mention population, I should be quick to qualify that because whether we like it or not, despite the fact that we have 200 million living, breathing souls, human beings, we do not have 200 million human beings who can afford internet, who are literate enough to, not just literate, but computer literate, who, talking about affordability, who, on top of affording the smartphone, can afford an internet subscription, and then can afford to pay for X service that you or I may be delivering through a new startup. Usually, this is the kind of work that we do at Bullion Labs, my company. We help founders really, really think about these things very clearly. Sometimes a market like Nigeria, yes, 200 million looks like a fantastic number, but I think that the number of Nigerians that can afford digital services today hovers somewhere between 20 and 40 million. Anybody that wants to bring a new digital service to Nigeria. Now, if you are building a non-tech startup, this generally doesn't apply because if you're selling salt, sugar, flour, this doesn't apply. But if you're selling technology, or digital services, then you want to think about that market size in terms of somewhere between 20 and 40 million, because you need to filter for all of these conditions and more that I've just defined. Can I stop there or should I continue?
Yes, let's stop there so that we move. I know you can, when it comes to tech issues, it's your beat and you're always very, very give us insights into all of these issues. But I want to say that it's not all bad news for Nigeria. Most times we think many times that it's always almost negative news of kidnaps and all of that we hear almost on daily basis. But being named as one of the best countries for online business in Africa, despite the challenges, what is responsible for this? How did we get here? Is it just that population that helped us, or the tech-savvy population that has really helped push Nigeria? And many even say at the AFCFTA, there's also an avenue to push that sector to make more money, of course, FX for the country.
Okay, so I'm going to sound like an insensitive person right now, but at first it will sound insensitive, but if you think about it deeply, you will see what I'm really saying. That insecurity that you mentioned, it's a big problem, right? It is also a gold mine. So really, 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 and that's the thing about entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship is a matter of perspective. One person experiences a problem and believes that I cannot survive under this condition. I need to find an escape route. Another person experiences that same condition and feels, oh my God, let me quickly go and confirm. Can I find 500 people that are experiencing this problem? Or can I find 500,000 people that are experiencing this problem? Or can I find 5 million people that are experiencing this problem? Oh, if I could solve this problem for 5 million people and only 10% of them can pay me $1 per month or $1 per annum, it's a 5 million or $500,000 business. Annum. Not a bad start, right? Now, how are you going to solve insecurity? I don't have the answers, okay? I don't have technical answers, but that's just like a high-level framework for thinking about why the report that we're analyzing would name Nigeria as one of the best investment destinations. Again, like you said, there's a vibrant youth population. And I will talk about this as two sides, the two sides of the coin. Nigeria is 70% of Nigeria's population, as has been confirmed by many reports, including National Bureau of Statistics, is below 35. What does that mean? That means we have an energy pool, a latent energy pool, because youths naturally have energy. We have a pool of 70% of 200 is about 140 million. Let's even say that 0 to 15-year-olds or 0 to 18, maybe half of that population are not yet in the productive sector. That means that we have about 70 million people that are able to appreciate digital services. They are what you call digital natives. Now, I'm about 40, I'm not ashamed of my age, I'm about 40. So technically speaking, I am a minority in Nigeria right now because I am not in 70% of the population. And I know many other people that are even older than myself, okay? Where am I going with this? I'm saying, again, just to corroborate the earlier point, if you can understand the psyche, the psychography, psychography includes, among other things, the buying patterns, the purchasing habits of this person I just described between 18 and 35, or 70 million of them, or between 0 and 35, about 140 million of them. If you can show me we call it a persona, you can show me a detailed profile of that person's name, age, gender, occupation, average income, 0 to whatever, then I will be able to help you draw a link between digital services that are native to that kind of person and the kind of numbers that this report has touted. Have I gotten too technical? Hello,
Okay.
Tolu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, clearly. I get you clearly. Let's talk about factors that are also influencing the development of e-commerce. And the one I want us to really look at is infrastructure. Of course, internet access is also very important. Let's weigh in on these two factors. How well are we doing in regards to infrastructure and internet access in this part of the world?
Okay. I like the word that you used, the blankets, the family, the compound, the category word that you used, infrastructure. Just before I touch on power and internet, let me touch on talent. And this kinds of connects this with the last point that we're talking about. 70 million people between 80, approximately, between 18 and 35 is a latent pool of talent, right? Do they have the kinds of skills to power this kind of, top destination for online businesses in Nigeria? Maybe not 100%. But that also, like I said, every problem is somebody's $1 million opportunity. That problem alone, the fact that we can say perhaps less than 50%, I'm sure this is a big oversimplification, but less than 50% of that 70 million fund does not have the skills to participate in the digital economy. That itself is somebody's $1 million opportunity. Now, having talked about infrastructure generally, we've spoken about talent infrastructure. Let's talk about power infrastructure. You and I have discussed almost countless times how power is required, is an essential component, an essential requirement, prerequisite for building a vibrant digital economy. Despite what the news that is going around, right, around the kinds of investments that the government is making in the back end of the power sector around GenCos and generation and transmission, at the end of the day, the average consumer, the average Nigerian citizen has not yet experienced an upward improvement in the quality of power consumption. And that's the ultimate barometer of success, okay? So having said that, the government needs to do more work, or whomever is going to provide power needs to do more work, either on their own or through the power provision companies. So that addresses power. You and I also know that power is largely an investment. The biggest factor in improving power in Nigeria is actually investment, it's dollars, right? So technical manpower is really not the problem, it's dollars. So let's push that aside. So we've addressed talent infrastructure, we've addressed power infrastructure. The last bit of your question is internet infrastructure, network infrastructure. Mrs. Funke Okweke Menwon has advocated that many times that the real problem with internet in Nigeria is investment that goes into the back-end infrastructure and that improves the quality of network for the average consumer, just like I described for the power, in the case of power. So what she has said is, usually the problem is not the last mile. The problem is between, for instance, when a subsea cable lands somewhere off the coast of Africa, on the coast of West Africa, the infrastructure that is needed to take that power from that point and drop it in the middle point from which it is taken and delivered to my office or my house or your office or your house. So again, I'd just like to amplify that message. We need more and more investments in network infrastructure, solid infrastructure that will enable you and I to ultimately have a better experience, internet connection experience. Thank you.
The population of unemployment across Africa stands at about 60%. And this is really worrisome. Now, do you think that this space, that's the e-commerce space, if well harnessed and, addressing challenges and all of the issues militating growth, do you think it can help one way or the other bridge this gap?
Yes, it can. Let me give you, and without talking theories, let me just draw an illustration from a real life example.
Go ahead, please.
In 2019, India earned $150 billion in inward forex. This is not from the millions of Indians that are scattered across the world. Those are expatriates. This is from locally resident Indians, local Indians residents in India that were earning forex from within India, locally within India. And they did all of this through internet infrastructure, 150 billion US dollars. Now, if you compare, now many of the consulting companies, many of the big companies around the world, have drawn a parallel between India's society and demographics and Africa, and by extension, Nigeria's demography and society. I do not see the reason why we cannot raise an army of, for instance, 10,000 young Nigerians out of this 70 million pool that we just described. And you agree that 10,000 is rather unambitious, but at least let's start with 10,000. I don't see any reason why we can't raise an army of 10,000 people who can earn, for instance, $20 per hour, which is really, really, really ridiculous by international standards. Okay, it may be a lot by Nigerian standards, but it's ridiculous by international standards, and make this forex and bring it back. So it does a number of things. It solves unemployment. It reduces the pressure on the forex, because now instead of looking for forex, we are earning forex. Okay, and people don't have to chapa. Pardon my French. People don't have to relocate. They are locally residents in Nigeria. We can repeat that model. All we have to do is study it and repeat it. And it's really, it's what is called a low-hanging fruit. It's not something really, really, really complex. Okay. So if you know anybody in government, link me up. Thank you.
Well, it's a good way to live it. Hopefully, we move on. That's really the way to go. Online. There's just that we need to also look at standards so that what we see is actually what is brought to us when we purchase and all of that. Also, internet, very important. Payments and payment platforms and all of that we run through. I know we can go on and on, but Mr. Adewakinde, that's all we can take today. It's a Friday, and I know you will need to enjoy your weekend starting from now. I must thank you so much, Startup Coach, Mr. Adewakinde. Do enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Tolu. Always a pleasure.